Welcome, everybody, to Pharus Global Live at 5. This is episode number 10. My name is Brian Hartman. I am the president of Pharus Funding Partners and partners in Pharus Global at OWL. We are live here at Ferris Plaza at 1859 Southeast Port St. Lucie Boulevard. We are happy you can join us today. And we have a special guest today who happens to be our Director of Human Resources at Pharus Group. I'm going to introduce her in a minute. Pharus Global is what we like to affectionately call an ecosystem of several different companies combined all together sometimes to help businesses, typically second stage companies, nationally. It does not have to be just here locally in Florida. We help businesses scale up as well as reach their exit. So I've been told I got to tone down the cradle to the grave thing. So we like to help businesses from the cradle all the way to the exit. And today we have with us Deb Wojcik. She is our Director of Human Resources, and she helps keep all of us in line as well as many of our clients. And we're happy to have her today. So everybody give a warm welcome to Deb Wojcik. Should I do the music? Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to the show today, Deb. How are you?
I am. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. We are excited that you are here. So we're going to be talking about why having an HR team for your business actually does make sense, right?
Yes, it not only makes sense, but it also cannot be, what is the right word that I want to use? I cannot say it strongly enough. Having human resources and a team, hopefully, if you have human resources, you also have a team along with you that actually work hard to help the business, your business as well as any client's business, to be efficient and therefore able to continue to grow. And so that is that's always been one of my mantras, is our goal in human resources is to make sure that we support our business partners, whoever they are, whether it's close partners like Brian and team at Pharus Group, or others of you who are on the phone. But if you are looking for assistance, our goal is to help you. And there's so many different pathways in order to make that happen.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get all the way up to this point? What have you been doing with yourself all this time? At least these last 5 years, right?
Okay, well, I'm going to go a little further back than that. I will share with everybody that I did start my career as a team member on in a large organization, an insurance firm, and from there I grew to be the leader of the team, and then a leader of that team who supported all of the different divisions in that organization. So I had a really good learning path, and when I walked into that particular situation, and I spent a lot of my years there because it was changing all the time. So I was always doing different things, and that's always exciting. But I love the nature of the work that I do. I am dedicated to growing people and companies, and that, so my title, I created my title, and the company that I was working with accepted the fact that this made a lot of sense, was an HR business partner. I see myself as somebody who balances the two sides, being on the working with my business partners, and so that is where the title comes from, and that is where all of the energy goes into.
That sounds awesome. So we are really lucky to have you, and we are always, we consider you the police. We have to make sure that we're all on good behavior when you come to the office.
Yeah, no, not so much. I think, number one, you're incorrigible, so I'm not sure that's even possible. But I'm teasing everybody. I think, it is not keeping people in place. I think it is just trying to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish and how can I assist you to make that happen. And so that is really the nature of the role and my direction.
Awesome. Okay, so everybody out there, if you have questions for Deb, and her last name is pronounced Wojcik, like WOH-Chick, CHICK. I just had to put that out there so everybody remembers how to pronounce it. If anybody has any questions for Deb today about HR or anything pertaining to it, please drop it into the comments and we'll be happy to answer those questions. And also, if you just like to say hello, we're happy to hear from you. So Deb, what is the value proposition of partnering with HR? It's often considered to be a support function versus a partner. So what can you share to help attendees understand how best to leverage HR in a more strategic fashion?
Okay. So the concept of having HR be somebody, almost an assistant in the background, that's an old paradigm, and that has evolved immensely over time. I would say in the last 10 years, the HR business part of the higher levels. So when you talk about individuals who are at the higher level of human resources, managing teams and serving a large population, that has grown way over time. And so we are not just people who are doing something that somebody thinks that we should be doing. In other words, let me say it differently, is a lot of people just said that we would just service based on what people needed. And what we do now as business partners is we seek to understand first. We want to know, what is it that you are trying to accomplish? When is it that you're trying to accomplish? And by, when you want to do it by, and therefore, based on that, these are some of the things that you might want to consider. So for example, you may want to do some hiring, but you don't know how to go about it, where to go, where to post, things of that nature. Certainly we can do that for you. But the other piece of it is, I would stop and say, okay, what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish? Are you reframing your organization? So if you're doing that, that means there's a different structure that's needed in place. That means there's different knowledge, skills, experience that you may need to leverage as well. And so you want to approach it from that perspective so that you can slowly identify. So you don't just jump in and hire people. You jump in and you establish a framework of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. What are the jobs? How many people do I need to do those jobs? What are the skills, the knowledge, the experience that they need to bring to the table for us to be successful? And once we can do that, then and only then do you start doing the actual recruiting, because you want to you don't want to put the cart before the horse. So
yeah, I don't like putting the cart before the horse either. So great answer. I love where you're headed with that. Unfortunately, many business owners struggle with turnover. So what can HR do to help lower the turnover that's going on?
Okay. One of the things that I would always strongly suggest is allowing that HR person to take a look at what's going on that's creating the turnover. There's always a cause. Is it that they are they not excited about the work that they're doing any longer? Are they looking to grow and that's not happening? Are you, as a manager or a leader in an organization, are you doing anything to help develop these people? Are you doing any cross training so you keep them interested? Turnover can be stopped as long as you are working very strongly with the different leaders in the organization so that they are they are leveraging those employees in a very different way. People, particularly right now with COVID going on and a lot of people losing their jobs, they want to keep the jobs that they have if they can. And most of them are, if they're taking a job, they're doing it because they're excited about the nature of the work. They want to do that work. And so it's up to us as leaders to start working with them. So I always strongly suggest when I'm coaching, and I do a lot of coaching with managers and their teams, is to start with what is it that you're trying to achieve? Then let's talk about what does it take in order to make that happen? And that goes again to how many people, what kind of knowledge, what kind of skills. I also like to have them go through a process by which we look at, where are our holes? Because a lot of times you have a lot of the turnover. It could be innocent. I had to move out of town, because of my husband's job or my wife's job, or other reasons. That doesn't mean that they didn't want to be there and stay, but they couldn't. They needed. There were other things that were impacting all of that. So it's understanding what is going on in their lives, and is there something that we can do to put that hook out there and be able to pull them back in, and be able to not have turnover. Because I will tell you, and I've got statistics I can share. I can send them to you, Brian, and you can send them out to everybody. But the statistics show that turnover, number one, is extremely costly. It is the most expensive thing that you will find in any business. So you don't want turnover. You not only want to hire for the best people, train them so they know it really well, and then leverage those skill sets. And then I also encourage people to cross-train so that you're not left high and dry. You want to make sure that you are, that you have the resources necessary in case somebody, has to leave for whatever reason. You've got somebody else that can replace that individual, and your work keeps happening. So you're able to keep business running the way that it needs to.
So obviously the moral to that story is retention is way less expensive to do than to have to hire new and retrain all over again.
Always, and significantly. I mean, I'm not talking, it's not like a small percentage. Like I said, I will share the numbers with you, and you can pass them on to the team, but they are, turnover is the most expensive thing that can happen in your life as a business owner. You don't want that to happen. The best thing that that can happen is not only do you keep them, but you grow their skills, and then you can grow. And that's really what I work with a lot of my clients to help make that happen.
That's excellent. So the other part to that is not only retention, but kind of having them graduate internally and promote within.
Absolutely. It costs you nothing other than your time. And in that, and I know that's important, but it's a lot of managers, leaders may not look at it as important because they've got all these other things to do. But I will tell you, concentrating on your employee base, grooming them, growing them, keeping them is the most valuable thing that you can do, I think, for in the long term. I mean, in the short term, I guess you could get away with some of that, but you don't want to do it with any kind of regularity.
Gotcha. All right. If anybody has any questions for Deb, please drop them in the comments. Please like the page, or if you're on YouTube, share it with your friends, and Facebook too. Let's get it out on LinkedIn. We want everybody to learn how to be able to utilize HR and have it make sense for their business. So COVID, let's talk about that all infamous terminology that everybody can't stand hearing about anymore. But obviously it's impacted the ability for people to hire, as well. So what are your thoughts about where do business owners turn now when they need to hire folks to get the business back up and running?
There are a lot of different websites that they can go on to, but I think posting a job that's very creative I mean, in terms of the language that you put into the job posting. So creating posts that are attractive enough to draw the people who are bored already with the a lot of the same old kind of postings that they see out there. So, and I actually just went through this with a client of mine, where they said the same thing. You know, COVID's there, nobody wants a job. Yeah, they do. They really do want a job. They just want to have a job where they can see a future that's attached to it. But they're also in any kind of interview that happens. So if a manager's got some people that they are exploring, and so they bring them on and they do an interview. In any interview, they are being interviewed just as well as the employee is. They are assessing, do I want to work for this person? Do I like the value proposition that they provide? So, and I will tell you, even in the COVID environment, a lot of these individuals are more on the generation that is more aggressive with all of this. They will say goodbye in a nanosecond if they feel that they are not going to gain any additional value by being part of this team. So it's a matter of really choosing well, spending time in the interviewing. If you're interviewing with individuals, it's usually good to bring somebody else on your team. That way you're teaching them how to do an interview well, but it also gives you afterwards an opportunity for the two of you to bounce off, is this good? Is it not good? Where would this person fit? It gives you an opportunity to make a really good hiring decision in the long run. So
those are some really great ideas. I bet a lot of business owners don't take advantage of that, and they probably should.
They don't, but I can tell you that the ones that I've worked with and have been able to grow a little bit more effectively because they were following a lot of those types of actions. So
awesome. So let's talk a little bit about bench strength. I hear about it in baseball, for example. Everybody wants that heavy hitter sitting on the bench for the seventh inning to come in and hit that home run. So what are the benefits of recruiting for bench strength in a business?
For me, it's a requirement. So if I became anybody's HR person and providing them, bench strength is huge. There can be all kinds of reasons why people are going to leave. And unfortunately, oftentimes they leave with the knowledge still in their heads and they haven't passed it on to anyone. So bench strength is really about getting a core group of people on your team to cross-train, to understand the work that each other does, so that if in fact somebody had to leave, you now have bench strength because you still have somebody who knows the work, knows the company, is engaged in the company, and therefore you can continue to build and grow that individual. So bench strength is important. You want it. You also have to be aware of the fact that there are some people who hire because it's somebody they knew and they like, not necessarily the skills. So you, again, always, if you double up, then you can vet out performance issues that you might notice, etc., so you can make a better decision in the long run.
And I would think that in some cases, business owners might realize that what they have on the bench sometimes might be better than what they have in place at the current time.
Absolutely. If they're doing good hiring and doing good interviewing and hiring from that perspective, it's very possible. If the individual that's in the job at the moment is disenfranchised, they're not, they don't see the growth path for them any longer. You probably have lost their interest. A lot of people say, well, I'm just going to terminate them. That's usually not the best option either, because there are ways that you can what is the right way I want to say it? You can embed in them another burning platform so that they know that this is something that I can take advantage of and continue to grow my own career. But it has to be career based. A lot of managers do not look at all of this, and I do have this in some of the materials that I share, is that you want a development plan for every single person. You want to set goals for them. You want to know, and that's person by person, because they can be very different based on what they do for you. But the bottom line is developing your population is critical, because you will be advantaged as an owner of a company immensely, and in tenfold if you do it right. Development plans are huge, but more importantly, so what I suggest is you start at the beginning of a year. If you have that opportunity, you set goals for each person. Actually, you set goals for the company, and then you align goals based on that with your employee base, and then they have to meet expectations or not meet expectations. So you go through a performance management process, meaning I'm setting goals, I'm measuring those goals, I'm checking in with you to find out how things are going and how they are not, and then you apply with that, and you find out how their behavior. So it's not just the what, but the how. You combine those two things, and you measure all of that in that process. However, what you also want is to make sure that they have the propensity to grow more, and then be able to be maybe that next manager to fill a hole that you had, so that they can grow another population of teams that you can leverage going forward. So I strongly endorse individual and group development. It seems to take. People think, oh, it's going to take a lot of time. It takes time, but it doesn't take a lot of time. It takes a conversation. You have a conversation with somebody, you share with them what you see as their potential, and then you give them the opportunity to demonstrate it. How you decide things happen from that is going to be dependent on them. You don't own that, they do. You just want to make sure that you're taking advantage of what you can when you can.
Makes total sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So you almost can think of it, the org chart, that's how you determine your goals on a level by level basis, all the way down to the basement.
Yep. Cool. Yep, absolutely. And then the next step to all of that is for a leader, a manager, to say, okay, there's tools that you can provide to say, who's my strongest employee, who's my weakest, and what do I have to do to help them develop and share, tell them, let me know, let me see whether or not they can actually do it. So there's a tool for being able to do that. And when you go through that process, then you know who your shining stars are and who you can develop into that next, maybe your job, maybe you're deciding you're getting ready to move on. That person could take your steps or other situations, but it really does allow your company to continue to grow and develop, but you're doing it very thoughtfully and you're doing it very planfully. There's different tools that you can use. I share one where you identify your top performers and the level for which, because everybody uses levels, right? And when if you're doing performance management, you're strong or you're medium, right? I mean, it goes through that process, but you can identify who your top stars are, who are your best individual contributors, because they are very, very critical to your company. They just don't want to be a manager. So they don't have to be, as long as they're adding that value added. So you can go through that process. And it's a really cool, and when I do it, I typically do it in team groups. And that way they bounce their thoughts and ideas off of everybody, and they come out at the other end with better decisions.
And that creates more teamwork too, obviously.
Exactly. It makes a more cohesive team, and they absolutely become more effective in the long run in the organization.
So let's talk about business owners for a second. What can business owners do to increase operational efficiencies in their companies?
Again, this is something I'll send. You can share on, and be happy to answer questions of people afterwards if they want to. But when you are trying to when you are trying to grow and make the best out of everything, there are different things that you want. I have these, what is it that you're trying to, it still goes back to what are you trying to accomplish? And you want to, I want to make sure that I have replacements, or I want to make sure that I have enough resources to make sure that the work gets done. The tool that I have is it's called a workforce plan. It's a workforce plan. So I sit down with the team of leaders. I'll use that word. And I said, okay, what is your goal? Number one, let's start. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And then we have the conversation. So if you need resources, how many of those resources do you need? Okay, let's dump it into the plan. Do you have anybody that you are afraid is going to be leaving because they have those? Yes. Then we make sure that we identify that. Now you've got to say, okay, who might take that position? Or do we need to hire for that position? So we make collective decisions. And if you're doing it as a team, people do it together, and it's very, very effective for the larger organization. The short version of it, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, that was probably Encyclopedia Britannica cut down to like a couple of pages, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot more about that.
It is, but it's also, workforce planning is really, really important for people, and a lot of companies don't endorse it. I don't want to use the term endorse. They don't do it because they haven't done it. They haven't seen the value, maybe proposition attached to it. But when you do workforce planning, you are doing things in a very thoughtful, intentional, patterned way. And when you do that, the outcomes of all of that makes it far more effective in the long run.
I always get this vision of everybody sitting around in a circle playing Duck, Duck, Goose when they're doing workforce planning. I don't know why, but that's what I think of.
That's funny. Sort of.
So before I ask you the next question, I'm always curious, what would you say if you had to pick one moment in time? What was the craziest moment you ever had in HR?
Oh, well, I'll never forget it, actually. But I'm not even sure I could say it on this call.
Do we have to censor it?
Oh, my goodness. This was definitely a little bit more in my junior years. And I was an HR business partner, and I was working with a team of very aggressive general agents. And in those, a couple of them were misbehaving fairly fairly obnoxiously, but when I say misbehaving, they were really preying on some of the female resources that were under their belt, up to and including some lewd behaviors. So here's me, kind of junior-ish at that time, and I
went behind the ears.
Yeah. So I needed to take care of it, and I did. And I had individual conversations with each of them, so they weren't all embarrassed at the same time. And I shared with them that not only is it not appropriate, it's illegal, oh, by the way, to doing what you're doing. And I don't think you want to get caught that way, because you're doing so good doing the business. And it worked well. I mean, I was better than what I'm just sharing with you now in short, but they got it. And I was able then to establish very strong relationships with a lot of these people. And they ended up being very successful. And I no longer had to worry about harassment, because that is a big deal, right? It's part of one of the trainings that I do, is that you really don't want to get engaged with any kind of harassment. Probably
not a good place to be.
No.
Unless you like to hold bars when you're done with it, right?
Well, or other things, yes.
Yeah.
Lose your job for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, Deb, I've known you to be a strong performance management advocate.
Yeah.
So share with us how that's a value proposition to the business owners out there.
Um, it helps you make money. It's a short version of it. When you do the whole concept of performance management, it not only it's that whole alignment to your business plan. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? You want to say, okay, these are our goals. So you start with performance management. You start with what are the goals for the company. What is the, I don't know, the ROI that I want to make sure that I am making? What is, there's and again, it's another form I can share, but these are, the things that as a business, I, as an owner, want to accomplish. Then there's another column that says, okay, the people who I need to do that work are whoever, this is what they need to accomplish. And now what you have, so that's what they need. And if you've got people underneath them and they have to, then you go to the next column and put them in there. But you're putting goals and objectives. And the reason I like goals and objectives is that you as a manager now can say, okay, this is what I asked you to do. This is when I asked you to do it by, and this is how I asked you to do it. Now you've given them the goals, you've given them their goals. They have to perform, and based on what they actually do perform, you will be able to say, "This is my strongest employee. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. This person is not doing anything that they need to. However, I think they have a potential. I might do some additional grooming with them." Or they may say, "This person is absolutely, not paying attention to any of this, and I've got to think about doing some termination maybe steps." So it allows you as a leader to be able to make really good decisions around your employee base, and then how you go about leveraging them, etc.
Do you think it's beneficial to kind of do something like that quarterly instead of waiting for once a year to sit down?
Yes, and I think it's more than quarterly, actually. I recommend that you, by the end of January of any year, I recommend that you have already sat down with them and started setting the goals and objectives. and then you can use that to measure as the time goes by. And then I would say leave them alone, give them their goals, share with them what you think they share with them. If you see that there's some things, provide some development. So don't just tell them what their goals are and walk away. Do check-ins with them. So you can do check-ins from the time that you talk to them, give them some running room, let them do some things, but keep an eye out. And then I would suggest a meeting with them, with each employee that you have under your wing there, to have just to see how they're feeling about things. If you've noticed something that you would like to see them adjust, change, improve, and or continue growing, because I really like what it is that you're doing. And so performance management is both the manager and the employee working together to make that happen. But it all allows you to set the objectives, have them meet it or not, and then make your decision in terms of what you're going to do with them for the rest of the period of time. A lot of people. And then that's why I like to have just a check-in, not anything formal other than the conversation. You can do it whenever you feel like, maybe after 60 days if they're new people, but maybe by the middle of the year, it's a good time, because you give them another period of time to actually work on the things that you've asked them to develop, and maybe you'll have better outcomes in the long run. By the end of the year, they could be your biggest star, some of them. So it's a matter of just spending enough time to find out where they are, calibrate, and then make sure that you're comfortable with that decision. And that way, you have a much more efficient and very low time-wise practice. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time to do this. The best leaders I have worked with actually do little drop-ins every once in a while, not just do this, what I'm telling you about or I'm sharing right now, but also doing little drop-ins, just checking in, how are things going? It shows that they're interested. That actually makes the employee feel better in the long run, gives them more courage to maybe do something different and bounce it off of somebody else. And again, if the manager is also encouraging them to partner with somebody else because that person has some knowledge, maybe you can both learn. Now you can do a little bit of cross training in the interim too. So performance management is huge. For me, it's like a core starting place when you are going through the whole process of employee management.
Well, it totally makes sense. I think it's also important to have that positive drop-in, and also sometimes you have to have a negative drop-in too, right?
Yeah, but the negative one, it's all in delivery, right? Depending on how you share that information will determine how well they'll take it. I mean, if you go in blasting them, and I had one client that was doing that with some level of consistency, and I worked with them. I said, you're not going to get the value out of your employees if you continue to do this. You really want to be able to lead them. You don't want to, if you lead them and you share with them and you ask questions and you show interest, you will have their loyalty for a really long time. And that's exactly what happened. They listened, they practiced, they practiced with it for a while, but then, they got it, and I could step aside. So it was good.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that that was the questions that I had. Did we miss anything? Anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't touch on this afternoon?
I think those were the big ones that I thought of. I mean, there's all kinds of little things, but those are like the big, the very large and most critical items that managers want to concentrate on, because that is what will grow your team. And if you're growing your team, you're growing your company, no matter how you look at it. So,
can you, before I let you off the hook, can you give us, what would you say are your top 2 reasons for people to reach out to you that are business owners?
I can help you make your. I've been. Let me back up. I can help you do everything that I just talked about. I've got the tools and I've got the knowledge, and I can let you run with it, but I can teach you how to run with it so that you can be more successful. You do these things, you will absolutely see a better growth opportunity within your organization.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you being here. It's been a long time waiting and coming. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Everybody that would like to see the replay of this, it can be found at youtube.com/Pharus Global. It will be up there indefinitely because it's a prize jewel that you want to replay over and over again. Next week, we will be having on Ben Jimenez of Benjamin Drew's Plumbing, and he's going to tell us all about commercial plumbing, and I'm going to kind of be nice and leave it at that because I have an HR lady in front of me. And thank you all for attending and joining us. If you'd like to be on the show, please feel free to reach out. We are, filling up the program for the next weeks and months to come, but we're happy to have you on, and we're happy to be able to talk about you and your business and learn more about what you're doing. So, Deb, thank you again for being with us.
It was my pleasure, and I welcome anyone who wants to reach out.
And how can they reach you? I know we have it on the screen, but best ways to reach you?
It's deb@pharusgroup.com, but my cell number is 772-342-8866. Either way is good.
All right, there you have it. Pick up the phone and give Deb a call. Thank you again, Deb. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Bye.